What if you could turn an ordinary wooden cutting board into a magical winter wonderland that's both beautiful and functional? Stay with me because you won't believe how easy it is to create this enchanting Christmas decor piece. I'll show you step by step exactly how to do it. Hello there, my crafty friends. I'm Donna from Mason Creations, etc. And welcome to my channel. So if you're ready to step into this winter wonderland, let's make a mess. I'm going to take this beautiful wooden cutting board and turn it into something magical, but only on one side. I'm leaving the back of it untouched so it can be used as a cutting board, serving board, or charcuterie board. This is a really nice, well-made board, so it's going to be perfect for this project and would make a great gift. I'm painting the front side white as a base. I'm using Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color Cotton. I'm making sure not to get the paint on the sides of the board. I want that to remain untouched as well. I want to make sure that the white is completely opaque because I'll be using some white decoupage paper. I don't want any of the wood to show through the paper, so I'm giving it 2 coats of paint. I'm using a sponge dauber because it delivers a thicker layer of paint than a brush does. I'll let that dry for about an hour. Now, isn't this some fabulous rice paper? This is going to be my stormy winter sky. I positioned it on the board and wet the edges where I was going to tear it to fit. The paper will tear much easier when wet. You always want to tear your rice paper or napkin instead of cutting it. A torn edge is much easier to blend than a sharp cut edge. Before I added my white paint, I gave the top of this board 2 coats of Polyvine heavy-duty wood varnish to give it a food-safe barrier. This way, nothing from the paint will leach through the wood, and I let that dry an hour between coats. This paper will be my snowy Christmas village. I'm using the second one down because I love the blue church in the distance, and this one is the correct size. First, I separated it from the rice paper. Now I'm using a water brush to remove as much of the excess paper as I can. A water brush has a cartridge that you fill with water and then brush it on the napkin or rice paper. The water dispenses easily, so this is really convenient. You can find this in my description box below, in my favorite tools section, just in case you want to check it out. This and all the products you're going to see me use today came from decoupagenapkins.com, my wonderful sponsors. Now I need to deal with the bottom of this stormy sky paper. It's a straight cut edge right now, and that will show through the village paper. So I need to tear it and remove a little bit of the circles so it will blend easier. You'll still see some of the textured circles through the buildings, but it ends up looking pretty cool in the end. I'm also removing some of the sides of the village paper to fit the board. I'm using Polyvine Decorator's Varnish as my decoupage adhesive today. You can use this product as a varnish and an adhesive, which is true for all the Polyvine formulas. It works so much better than the most popular brand of decoupage glue. It's not a glue, so it doesn't go on thick and lumpy. It's a varnish, so it dries crystal clear and will never yellow. I'm just adding this on top of my paper. The varnish will seep through the paper for great adhesion. I like to decoupage this way, so once I have my paper aligned the way I want it, I don't have to lift it up and risk it moving around on me. I feel like I have better control over positioning the paper this way. I'm adding my Winter Village paper now at the bottom in the exact same manner. Part of the village paper is laying on top of the stormy paper. I didn't take it all the way to the bottom of the board. I'm leaving room for some snow. If you get any paper over the sides of the top edge, not to worry. It will sand right off when it dries. Where are you all watching from, my crafty friends? Let me know in the comments. I just love to see what cities and countries all my friends are watching from. I'm filming from sunny Las Vegas, Nevada in the United States. I let everything dry for a couple of hours. Then I gave my entire piece a coat of Polyvine heavy-duty wood varnish in a satin finish. 2 or 3 coats of this gives you a beautiful shine that's moisture and high heat resistant, as well as high chemical resistant, high stain resistant, high abrasion resistant, and food safe. This works wonderful on any painted or decoupage surface or shiny surface that has been coated with Polyvine multi-surface lacquer. I let that dry for an hour between each coat and an hour after the final coat. I've had a few people ask me if this varnish has a strong smell. No, it does not. It's water-based, so there are no harmful fumes at all. I'm using a special paintbrush that is made by Polyvine specifically for their varnishes. It's wonderful and spreads the varnish out nicely, eliminating brush marks. Some molds are just too shallow to get a good molding with clay. In that case, I use cream paste. This product is great for extremely shallow molds. I'm adding it to the mold and then scraping off the excess with my palette knife. This product will need to dry overnight. I test all the products that I recommend in my videos. I won't recommend anything that I haven't used myself and prefer. If I'm recommending it, you can bet it's a great product. Each product will be listed in my description box below and will have a blue link to make it easy for you to find. Any of the links I provide are safe for you to click on. Before I remove the cream paste from the mold, I'm using an alcohol wipe to remove all the excess paste from around the molded form. Even after removing this from the mold, it will remain flexible and will conform to any shape. I'm using my favorite DOS clay to make some embellishments for this project. DOS clay is so easy to work with, dries quickly, and has very little shrinkage or cracking when dry. It's perfect for making molded pieces. After pressing the clay into the molds, I'm scraping off the excess with my palette knife and then smoothing the clay out with some water. Then I'll put them in the freezer for 20 minutes. Freezing the clay makes it rigid so they just pop out of the mold easily. No tiny little limbs will break off. If you're enjoying this video, please let me know by hitting that like button. And why not share this with a friend? Thanks for doing that. You won't want to miss any of the new projects coming up, so don't forget to subscribe. Fresh out of the freezer, watch how easily these just pop out of the molds. No delicate little pieces will break off. They are frozen solid, so I'll need to let them thaw for a few minutes, but not in the mold. Make sure you remove them from the mold right away as soon as you take them out of the freezer. You get so much more detail from your molds when you freeze the clay. If not frozen, it's so easy to destroy some of the detail when unmolding. I'm going to use Aleene's tacky glue to add my molded clay to my piece. I need to add this while the clay is still wet so it'll conform to the piece as it dries. This is the best glue I've found for attaching wet clay. If any glue seeps out from under the clay, I'm removing it right away with a clean, damp brush. I'm also pressing down all the edges of the clay very delicately to make sure they're all connecting with the piece. DecoupageNapkins.com has such a great selection of napkins that you can purchase one at a time. They carry many other craft supplies such as rice paper, paint, clay, molds, and a great selection of Polyvine products. Over 9,000 products and growing. They are wonderful to work with and will send your order out fast. You'll receive free shipping on orders over $75 and special bonus points for orders over $100. Subscribe to their newsletter by entering your email address and you'll receive 10% off your next order. They are truly your one-stop shop for craft supplies. Make sure you check them out. I'll be leaving links for all the products I use in my description box below, as well as more information on the previously mentioned promotions. Please note that any of these promotions are subject to future changes. I let all this clay dry overnight. These very tiny rhinestones are for nail art, but today they're going to be tiny little light bulbs. I'm gluing them in the center of all the little lanterns, as well as that string of red lights over the village. The tool I'm using is called a rhinestone picker. It has a wax tip that the stones stick to, but release easily once you put them on top of the glue. It really works well and is much better than using tweezers. I'll leave a link for you in my description box below, in case you want to check it out. I'm going to let this glue dry for several hours. Remember all those beautiful snowflakes I made out of the cream paste? Now it's time to add them to the top of this board because it's snowing in the village. I'm placing them on the board where I'm going to want them before I start gluing. This way I can rearrange them if I want to. I'm putting the larger ones at the top and smaller ones at the bottom. Now I'll start lifting them up one at a time and adding my glue. These will need to dry for a couple hours. Everything is dry now, and it's time to give all my little bows, holly, Christmas trees, and snowman some paint. I'm using Pentart Red for all the little bows. Pentart Gold for the bells, Pentart Pine Green for the holly, white and red stripes for the mailbox pole, and of course a red bow, and of course white for the snowman, Pentart Vintage Green for both of the Christmas trees. If you plan to use the other side of the board for any food items, you'll need to rub it down with food-grade mineral oil. It keeps your board from cracking, as well as keeping bacteria at bay. This board will be hand wash only. It's difficult to see the actual mailbox on the rice paper, so I'm going to make a small mailbox with my clay. I'll let that dry and then paint it silver. Although the artificial snow and the Polyvine Heavy Duty Wood Varnish are both water resistant, please don't submerge your board in water or use a dishwasher. It will be cured and ready for use in 5 days. Pentart Black for the snowman's hat. A little shading on the trees with holly green. I used Pentart Leaf Green to do some dry brushing on the holly. Pentart Hazelnut for the snowman's scarf and muff. And Pentart Silver for my little mailbox. All these cute little embellishments are literally making this beautiful rice paper look alive. Okay, now I'm back to my mini rhinestones. Now they're going to become Christmas balls for my trees. I let all the paint dry for about 30 minutes, and then I gave the entire front of the board a coat of the heavy-duty wood varnish and let that dry for an hour. Do you have any Christmas projects you'd like to see this year? Send me a comment and let me know. I love planning projects around your requests. Just be patient with me, I get a lot of them. I put a little bit of the heavy-duty wood varnish in a little plastic cup. Then added a couple tiny spoons of Polyvine Glitter Paint Maker. This is made specifically to add to paints and varnishes to add a glittery, iridescent appearance. I'm going to brush this on all those little snowflakes to make them stand out and shimmer. You guys know how much I love shimmer. I always mix up my paints in these little 2-ounce plastic containers. They have a lid so my paint will stay fresh for at least the duration of my project. And when you're finished with your project, you can just throw them away. I'm going to mix up a custom color antique for all my little embellishments. I'm putting about a teaspoon of glazing medium in a little cup and adding paint in Pentart colors, light brown and hazelnut. The hazelnut will lighten it up a little. I don't want a really dark antique. I want it subtle, but just enough to make the details from the mold stand out and give the embellishments a more 3D appearance. It will create depth by making them look like they're lifting off the paper. The glazing medium prolongs the paint's drying time, which gives you a longer time to work with it. I also added a little bit of water. I prefer my antiques to be a little runny. I'm brushing my antique on the piece, going over and around all the embellishments. I'm doing this in sections and wiping the antique off with a soft, dry cloth right away before it can dry. Because of the gloss finish, it will wipe off the surface and stay in all the cracks and crevices, showing the details of the mold. Antiquing gives your embellishments some depth and dimension, making everything look 3D instead of flat. What a difference it makes. Everything just comes to life now. After the paint dried, another coat of heavy-duty wood varnish. Stick around and see what I'm going to do next. Snow anyone? I get a lot of questions about how I clean my brushes after all the products I'm using. Everything you've seen me use today is water-based, so they will all clean up with soap and water. I use Speedball pink soap for brushes. I'll leave you a link in my description box below. It works really well. It seems to remove paint you didn't even know was still in your brush. I think you'll like it. I'm using True Snow, and it looks just like freshly fallen snow. So let's add some snow to this piece. I'm using a palette knife to apply it at the bottom, and a brush here and there for blending. This just looks so cool. It really looks like snow. I used my finger to wipe it off the bottom edge. I don't want any of the snow going over the sides. I added it really thick at the bottom and a little lighter on all the rooftops. I used a really tiny brush to get smaller things like the window boxes and ledges. I want to add some shimmer to all my little embellishments, so I'm using a metallic wax rub in the color White Pearl. I'm using my finger to rub this lightly over all the embellishments. It adds shimmer and makes the red bows look like satin. I'm putting a small amount of the rub on my finger and rubbing it together with my thumb. Smearing it around like that prevents a large amount of your product ending up in one place. I'm adding a little more snow to all the tops of the bows, the holly, and all the other embellishments. This gives my snowy village just a touch more realism. Since I was putting the snow on such tiny things, I found that using a toothpick worked well for this. Anywhere I put snow, I went over it with the glitter varnish that I used on the snowflakes. I want all the snow to sparkle and shimmer. I made a beautiful bow for around the neck of the board. I made it so it ties in the back for easy removal, just in case you want to use this Winter Wonderland serving board. Don't forget, all of the wonderful products I'm using today can be found at my favorite place for craft supplies, decoupagenapkins.com, and I'll leave you links in my description box below. I've added a link to a video that I think you may enjoy. Click the picture on the right to be taken directly to that video. I'm so happy you were here with me today, and thanks so much for watching. I can't wait to see you all next week. I'm working on a new project with you in mind. You can subscribe by clicking my picture in the top right corner.